Hey guys, this is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics to hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. So, I have someone here who has been starting to transform my thinking, and his name is Justin Bream, and he is the founder and CEO of a global PR firm, Brepic Communications LLC, and the author of the #1 international best-selling book, Epic Business, which mine is on its way, so I can't wait to get it. He is the connector of geniuses throughout the planet and is an active member of Entrepreneurs Organization's Strategic Coach and Secret Knock. So, Justin, I want to thank you because I know you're a busy dude. So, thank you for taking that time out to be with me a few minutes today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, and very excited to talk.
Yeah, did I say that right? Is it Brepic? Right?
Yeah, it's interesting because um, people never say it right, but you did, so thank
Oh,
you.
good. Justin, the way I like to start is for my audience to know a little bit more about you. So if you can just give us a little bit about who Justin is. By the way, my #1 favorite name, that's my son's name. So
Oh,
I love
nice.
it.
So you're
Yeah.
the second person today that I've talked to who has a son named Justin, and everyone my whole life has called me Jason. I don't know why.
That's weird.
My father was a great man. He named me Justin because, or he wanted to name me Justin because he wanted me to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I would have been the worst attorney slash judge ever. So Justin is really good for journalism too, though, because you finish just in time. So
Oh, that's
just in time.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that name. It's always been my favorite name. I don't know why. Growing up, I just loved it. So as soon as I had my youngest boy, I was like, I know his name. So tell us a little bit about you, Justin.
Yeah, so my father was 61 when I was born, so he'd be 105 if he was alive now. So I'm 43, so I'm
Wow.
like an 80. Yeah, I'm wow. Everything in my life is wow that actually happened. So wow doesn't mean anything unless it actually happens. So it's wow that actually happened. So I'm an 80-year-old soul, so I should be around 80. So 80-year-old soul and 43-year-old's body, and I have the childish mindset mentality of maybe a 4-year-old, maybe five.
Oh,
And so my sons are 8 and 6, and my wife is a pediatrician. She's the nicest person ever. She says she has 3 sons, or 2 sons and me. So I'm basically a child.
it's awesome. Well, if you have that big of a range too, that means you can relate to a lot of people, right? So that's great,
You
right?
hit it
And
on the head.
and I've been listening to you on a lot of podcasts. I don't think you have your own yet, correct? Do you have your own?
Yeah, I don't. I
Okay.
probably will. The reason I don't is because I was a journalist for 20 years. I've interviewed tens of thousands, of people, and so most of my day is talking to the top entrepreneurs in the world. And so basically, I'm doing, I'm
Yeah,
literally doing this all day.
right.
And I don't currently. I didn't want it to be a conflict of interest where I had to interview my
That makes
clients on
sense.
my own podcast. So that's why I don't have one yet, but likely will have one eventually.
Yeah. Well, you're a great guest on a lot of these podcasts. Justin, I come from a different, view, a worldview. So I'm trying to change that, right? So I've struggled a lot in my life, all that kind of nonsense. And I'm trying to change my mindset to be better. And
Mhm.
so you caught my attention. So I've been, listening to you in a lot of several podcasts, watching you on YouTube, because I'm trying to change my mind in the way I think. And I think
Mhm.
the best way to do that is to put yourself in the room with the smartest people,
Right.
so
Of
that
course.
so you can grow and stretch. And i
Hmm.
i love, not just that, the way your mind works, because you have a really unique way of thinking, and I love that. I also like that you have a lot of values, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit. I know that you are really big on balancing family as well with
Hmm.
business, right? And it sounds to me like family first. Is
It
that
does.
right? Yeah.
I mean, right. So I'm 100% simplifier. I just hear blah, 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 and simplify
Hmm.
it into patterns. That's how my brain works. And so I have two 10Xs in my life. It has nothing to do with revenue, office space, employee count. All that stuff's meaningless to me.
Hmm.
The only two 10Xs I have is because I'm 100% simplifier. I just see things. So one is 10Xing experience in life with my family. When you have a good family life, you have a good life. And then 10Xing my network on a global level. When you do that, you create endless opportunities for your network and yourself. And so the byproduct of that is I have an insanely profitable company that only works with the top people in the world. Because if I meet someone and I'll know right away because I talk to the top entrepreneurs in the world, if someone if someone's going to annoy me or take time away from my family, I'll never talk to that person again. So most
Right.
people don't have the courage or confidence to do that, and I just do. Like,
Right.
and that directness just weeds out nonsense and attracts greatness. And my mindset,
It's good.
I just have an
So good.
incredible mindset that creates the right network and leads to the right opportunities. That's the right mindset leads to the right network, and that creates the right opportunities. So there's no
That's so
sales or
great.
funnels or anything. I just attract the top people in the world. They make opportunities for me. Period.
Period. Like simple.
That's
You
it.
did
And
say
all
you
this
just
other
simplified
stuff.
that.
Well, I mean, and I'm really excited about this conversation, but all this other stuff is landing the plane. I have the right mindset that attracts the right network and creates the right opportunities. And then I invest heavily to be in several of the top entrepreneurial groups in the world. And those are all five-figure investments because when you make good investments like that and you're in the right
Right.
room with the right people, then it weeds out all this other stuff. It weeds out all
Right.
the wannabes or the hangers on. It just weeds that out. And the people at the highest level, they just make the investment. They don't make excuses. They just
So
make the
true.
investment. Right.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so good. See, this is why I wanted you here.
That's it.
Okay.
Right.
So how are you? How are the boys? I mean, I'm sure that you're like setting them up for this amazing mindset, right? Because they're not going to get that in school. They're not going to get that, probably from the majority of their peers unless they have
No.
parents like you. So, how are you setting them up? What are you doing to like make their brains go in that direction where they get creative and
Hmm.
all that great stuff?
Yeah, so my sons are 8 and 6. My 8-year-old started his first business when he was 7, and then my 6-year-old wants to be a Navy SEAL. Okay, so a lot of people blah blah blah, and
Okay.
there's no meat behind it. Okay, so I don't say anything unless there's meat behind it. And so when my 8-year-old was 7, he was walking to school with me. He goes, "Dad, I'm so bored with school." And I go, "Well, of course you're bored. You're being taught by people with zero entrepreneurial skills." So I'm like, "Learn to read and write and stuff, and then I'll introduce you to people that can, teach you other things." And so when I'm in these amazing groups, many times my kids will sit on my lap and watch them with me. And these are the top entrepreneurs
Wow.
on the planet. While that actually happened, that's my
Yeah.
whole. That's my. Wow is meaningless unless you do something about it. So I do
So
it.
good.
That's right. Okay. And then my sons have taken the Kolbe test. The Kolbe, Kolbe. It's the top entrepreneurial test
Yeah, I
in the
was going to
world.
ask you about that.
Right. So it's the Bible of Strategic Coach, which is the top entrepreneurial group in the world, and I've been very blessed to be in that. So my son's Colby scores. The 8-year-old is a 3.296. So he's a 9 quick start, 2 follow through. So in many places that's diagnosed as ADD, but whatever that is, most entrepreneurs at the highest level have a Colby score similar to that. And then
Wow.
my 6-year-old is a 4.294. So again, very high quick start in 9 and then 2 follow through. And so they're both, one has already started his first business. I'm guessing the 6-year-old eventually will. So if they want to go down that path, they can follow in my footsteps. And if they don't, then that's fine too. But at least they know that that option is available. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was until I started my company
Right.
4 years ago. So
And I
giving
was
them
going
a
to
big
ask you, I was
advantage.
going to ask you about that, if that's something that you grew up with, right? Because
No,
that's not like a normal childhood, right? To grow up,
very
taking a
abnormal.
Colby score, right? So, what was that like for you growing up? I mean, I mean, something created Justin, right? Your experiences and things that you do created you. So
Hmm.
what was that childhood like? And, how did you make that switch over to know about entrepreneurship and all that?
Yeah, so those are two very good questions, and I'm a simplifier, but you can't simplify that answer because you can't understand the answer unless I extrapolate on that. So, again, my father was 61 when I was born. He'd be
Yeah.
105 now if he was alive. So, he was a soldier in World War II, an attorney in the Nuremberg trials. He became the president of an insurance company. He and his three brothers came from nothing, and
Wow.
so he was shot down 9 times in combat, two near fatal car accidents, survived them both. My father wrote a diary of his experiences in the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest toward the end of World War II. That was a very bloody battle, and
Yeah.
he died when I was 13. I found the diary after he died, and that's my most cherished possession. And I write exactly like he does. Boom, 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 boom. His diary is one of the greatest things ever written. Eventually, I'll get it published, but it's
Yeah.
just amazing. I'm a very good writer. He's world class, and so that's my dad's side. That's dad, that's half of my brain. And then my father in his late 50s was driving on a highway, and a drunk driver went across the median, hit him head on. The drunk driver was killed
Mm,
immediately. My dad survived, broke every bone in his body, but he survived because you just survive. And so my mom was his nurse, literally nursed him back to life, saved his life. And again, most of my days talking to the top entrepreneurs in the world, and I've never met anyone ever with more hustle than my mom, ever, not never.
wow.
So you combine, it's incredible. Survive and thrive is, I mean, what my mom has overcome in life is absolutely unbelievable. But believe it happened, but it's unbelievable. And
Right.
so you combine that endless hustle with genius battlefield hero writing brain, came from nothing, and then that's here I am. And so I see those portions of my brain in my children, and then my wife is the most empathetic. Again, she's a pediatrician, so empathy,
Hmm.
rules, order, kindness, love, like all that, whatever that is. And then my sons are a mixture of that. And again, I never heard the word entrepreneur growing up. I got a full academic scholarship to the University of Illinois. I got a 32 on my ACT, so I have some type of a brain in the traditional educational world, but never heard the word entrepreneur. And so I want my sons to not have to figure that out in their 40s, starting a
Right.
company if they, right. So.
Right. So the bravery part, right? I mean, sounds like your youngest one kind of got that too, right? He wants to be a Navy
Oh,
SEAL.
both of my children are so, oh my God, they are fearless, and it's so.
So exciting.
If my dad, oh my God, he would have been so proud of my children. Oh God, because obviously I miss my father very much for me personally, but oh my God, my children and my father would have been, um, like my dad was a child. He was like a child. It's interesting because my kids and I just watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 last night, and that is a very inappropriate movie for most children. But my kids, whatever, they don't, And so those are the movies I watched growing up as a child. It wasn't
Yeah,
cartoons,
me too.
and right, and so like it's really interesting. And my wife has no idea what I'm doing because she's like, she grew up sheltered and very like super kind helicopter parents. I mean, that's fine too, but it's
Yeah.
like the total opposite of that. And it would have been so interesting to see my dad with my children because it would have been fearless, like hardcore fighting playing, which is what we do now, but it would have been exponentially crazier than that.
You know what's interesting is you said your dad died when you were 13, is that right?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Isn't that something that you still got that same tenacity in you, right? And that
Well,
you
it's in
see it
me at the
and you see
highest
it in your
level.
children. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right? And they never even met him, but you see it in them.
Right, and
It's
so
yeah.
that's what's interesting about the diary is I write exactly like my father, and I found it
Yeah.
after he died. So it's an incredible connection. And there's the Jimmy V speech, the Jimmy Valvano speech. It's arguably the greatest speech of my lifetime. And he talks about know where you come from, know where you are, and then know where you're going. But know where you come from. I know where I come from,
Right.
and I know where I am and I know where I'm going, but I wouldn't know where I am now or where I'm going if I didn't know where I come from. And I know where I come from at the very highest level. And then when I interview people, again, I've interviewed over 10,000 people, and I never come prepared with any questions ever, except for I ask what their parents did or what their parents do, because then they think about where they came from.
Right. And then that's important to where you're going, right? That does
Right.
that tell you a lot about that person?
Yeah, so it tells me a lot about the person, and then the person thinks about themselves, and so then they start thinking
Mm,
about things that actually matter. Because nobody cares about what you do; they care about who you are. But if they
I've
care
heard you
about
say
who
that.
you are, they will care about what you do. So I like people to talk about who they are and where they come from, because then they think about why they're doing something. They're doing something usually because of who they are and where they came from. Usually,
So at 13, that must have been a very, big loss for you, right? I mean, that had to be some real struggle there growing up, knowing
yes,
that you didn't have your dad. So
right.
do you feel like that formed you as well? Like, that impact? Because I think when you have a big loss like that, right? Even your, like, I don't know if you have siblings, but I'm
Yes.
assuming that everybody probably had it impacted differently, right?
Yeah, right. So I can answer that very directly. So my father died when I was 13. He lived just long enough. I got just enough of him, just barely enough. If he
Hmm.
had died when I was 12 or 11 or 10, which I'll explain in a second, it probably wouldn't have been enough. And so he always said, the cream rises to the top, the cream rises to the top, the cream rises. So I only work with the people, the cream that rises to the top are the ones
Mm.
that'll do what it takes. The ones that'll get shot down 9 times in combat or get into two near fatal
Yeah.
car accidents will just get it done. Because at the highest level, there are no excuses. I have no tolerance for excuses. You just make the investment. And that's just in me. You don't make excuses. And my mom would never make, you just get it done. You figure it out. And so my youngest brother was 10. I'm the oldest of three boys, and then I have an older half
Mm.
sister. She's 6 years old. So my youngest brother was 10 when my dad died. He didn't get enough, so he tried to jump into the grave when the casket was
Mm.
going down, and he died of a drug overdose he never recovered. So he died when he was 29. He'd be 40. He'd be 40. Yeah, he'd be
Wow.
40 now. Right. Wow, that actually happened. Right. So
Yeah.
so he didn't get enough, and he never recovered from that. But I got just enough, just barely enough.
So that was another hit to the family, right? Another hit to you too. It's your brother.
Well, I mean, again, so like people, I've seen so many entrepreneurs or people in general, let work get in the way of family. I'm not, I will never be that person because I know what it's like not to have a dad around. Yeah, and so I'll never be the person that and then I know what it's like to lose a brother. So I'm just not, I talk to a lot of very wealthy people, a lot of very wealthy people. If you think of wealth as money, which is fine, and many times, not always, but many times, I'll ask, so how's your family, or that, and many times, not always, but many times, they'll be like, oh, I never spent time with my family, or I never had a family, and then you hear that hurt, you see the hurt, and I'm just never going to be that person ever. And talk about values, how many values I have. Actually, I have very few values, but the ones I have, I just do them. And I just family first, and I only work with a certain type of person, the cream that rises to the top, or will do what it takes. And then it just eliminates all this other noise, and it just eliminates it all. And then just focus on the people that get it, and the ones that are changing the world, because I work with them, and because they're the ones that are actually doing something. They're the wow that actually happens. They're the ones that employ everybody else or create the
Right.
technology that just that's what I mean. No excuses, only investment. Very
Do you think
simple.
that makes you the like a, I know you started Brepic, I think it was 2017. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you think that that's what makes you successful in what you do is, that you hold those standards, those values so high, because you can dive into your work all day if you wanted to, right? I mean, it's there.
Right.
So having those standards and values, I think, maybe holds you to a higher place, right? Do you feel that way?
Well, I do, and I'll extrapolate on that. And so, again, my mindset just attracts the right people who understand it. And the only one who will understand me you're one of two types of people, period. Because I only work with people that have visionary abundance investment mindset, visionary abundance investment. So people with those three attributes, because I simplify and see patterns, you can only be one of two types of people. One, you're running a high 6 figure to 10 figure business. You see your family whenever you want to, and you do what you like to do and what you're good at. Or you're going to be one of those people, you're not there revenue or profit wise, but you will be. So you don't make an excuse, you just
Mm.
make the investment. And so I have multiple billionaires that have been clients and 5 or 6 people that are dirt broke that have been clients because they just make the investment. You find a way you take a second credit card out, you take a loan out, you just make the investment.
Mm-hmm.
And again, directness just attracts greatness and repels nonsense. That's all it does. And so the people that are attracted to this, to answer your question, they're those people with the three attributes, and it repels everybody else. And I don't care because those people are just going to waste my time. They're going to be the people that take away time from my family, and I'm not. I'm not going to do
That's
that.
so
So,
good.
well, so
Yeah.
people are like, how did you do this? How did you build a global company with zero business background? I'm like, well, directness weeds out nonsense and attracts greatness, and I have the right mindset that attracts the right network, which creates the right opportunities. Period.
Yeah, that's really good, Justin. Do you think that's something, well, obviously, right, you said your mom was like this, your
My mom
dad was
is
like
like
this.
this. My mom is
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and your grandpa, like everybody's like that. Do you think that's something you're born with, like something that's innate in you? Or do you think that there are entrepreneurs that are dirt broke, like you were saying, and are trying to build that mindset? Like, do you have like strategic ways that you say, okay, do this, this, and this to build your mindset?
Yep. So you're either born the highest performing entrepreneur on the planet or you're not. Most people could not start a
Mm,
business in a couple of years, and they just can't. Why can't they do this? Because if they could, they'd be doing this. You just if everybody could do
yeah,
this, they'd be doing this. No,
that's
no,
true.
no. And most people make well. People are like,
That's true.
"Oh, you're doing so well." I go, "Well, you didn't see me with zero clients and zero revenue at 3 in the morning.
Right,
Most people can't do this. Okay, they
right.
just can't." So I think that's a reality that, again, if most people could do this, they would be doing this. They can't do this. Okay, so that said,
Mm,
what I must stress is, and this does answer your question as well, is that I just work on my mindset every day. My mindset was not always like this. I was born to do this, but my mindset wasn't always like this. So I
right.
just work on my mindset every day, like a muscle. I treat my brain like a muscle, and I just build my mindset every day by either again making those big investments to be in the right room, or listening to motivational podcasts, or reading the best books,
Okay.
or I have 5 to 10 conversations at the very highest level with the top performing entrepreneurs on the planet every Monday through Friday. So my mindset is impenetrable, and it continues to get better and better and better and better. And the beauty of it is there's no limit to that mindset, none, because when you find the right people, it's a big small world, and the people at the highest level, they just want to introduce you to more people like that because there's no
Yeah,
competition, none. It's all collaboration. No competition, only
that's so
collaboration at the
good.
highest level. Thanks.
That's so good.
It's
That's
really
really
not
good.
hard, except most people can't do this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. And I love the way, that's why I love the way you think, because you're just like, listen, we're going to either get this done or we're not. I'm not going to
No,
waste
no,
my
no.
time
You're
with
either
them
do
in
this or you're
between.
no, no, no,
Right.
no. There is no in between. So that's interesting. What you just said there was very profound because I love my wife more than anyone on the planet and my children as well, but she's 100% gray. At the highest level, there is no 100% gray. It's all, I'm 100% black and white. So you either make
Mm,
the investment or you make an excuse. And if you make an excuse, I will not work with you because that's a waste of my time. Time vampire. I have no time to waste time. I have no time for nonsense. I have no time for time vampires. And the people that I work with, they just get that. And again, those
yeah.
people only hang out with other people like that because why would you waste your time if you're at that level with someone who's going to waste your time? You just don't do that. You
So
don't.
people got to make a mind shift if they are the people that are wanting to do this and are still we're living in that gray place. You either have to do it or not, basically, right?
Yes.
Like it is really going to come down to the mindset, isn't it? Because you said before you can work with wealthy people or broke people, but if the mindset is there, you can make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, right mindset makes the investment, wrong mindset makes excuses. And
So good.
again, so there is no gray at this level. There is no gray. There is only collaboration, there is only investment, there is only abundance, there's only visionary. There's no what do you cost or charge. There's no nickel and diming. There's no competition, so I guess technically I'm in the PR space, right? Even though I was a journalist for 20 years, and created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. So I saw a problem, created a solution, problem solve, successful global company. That's the formula to building a successful global company. You see a
Right.
problem, create solution, problem solve, successful global company. And so I was doing an interview the other day, and they're like, "Oh, you're in a really competitive space, vertical." I go, "No, I'm not. There's no competition. It's only collaboration. Because if someone doesn't match my mindset, I will not work with them. And the only people that are attracted to what I'm talking about are the highest performing people, are the ones that'll do what it takes. So I'm the buyer. I don't sell anything. I buy the people I want to hang out with. They happen to pay my firm, but I'm
Right.
buying there's no selling anything.
That's so good, right? Because that can also like people who don't understand that would automatically think, oh, maybe Justin's arrogant or he thinks he's better or whatever have you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
that's exactly. So people who think
yeah,
that are arrogant themselves because they think they're great at everything. I'm actually terrible at
exactly.
almost everything. I'm just really confident in one or two things, and
Right.
I just
But
stay in that
because you
zone of
know what you're
genius.
doing and you're doing it well. And
Right.
it's funny because I tend to be a little bit of a black and white person myself, so I get a lot of pushback
Right.
for that.
Who
It's
cares?
funny because it's funny. I know that's That's how I feel. But I love that because I can imagine, I wish I was a fly on the wall because I can imagine some of the conversations at your dinner table with your wife being gray and you being black and white.
Right.
That has to be really great, especially for the kids, right? Because now they can see all angles and they start
Mm,
to develop their own minds. How
yes.
fun are they, right? At 8 and
It's the
6.
best. It's the
Oh, it's so
best.
fun. I
I'm
remember
so
my boys being
thankful.
small.
Well, it's really cool because your boys aren't small anymore, and they're evolving in age and then brain, and it's my wife has made me somewhat of a human, like just barely human, like because if I hadn't met her, in my book, I'll just read this to you because people have these like these long what acknowledgments, right? They have these like paragraphs and all this crap, and here's my acknowledgement. I didn't even thank my kids. To my wife, who has given me a wonderful life in every way imaginable. That's my entire acknowledgement. Because without her, I'm not a human. And so she said the nicest thing to me the other day, the nicest thing, because we were talking, and I was asking my 8-year-old Jake. I'm like, hey, what's the coolest thing about the 6-year-old? And then Chase is the 6-year-old, and then I asked the 6-year-old, what's the nicest thing about Jake? And then I told my wife the nicest thing about her. She puts everyone else before her, which is really admirable. And then I asked her, and she takes a little while longer to think of things. And she told me the nicest thing was I made her enjoy her life more because she
Oh,
takes more
wow.
chances now. Yeah, wow, right,
That's a
wow.
wow moment. That's a
That
wow.
was a big wow moment because it takes her a long time to process things, which is fine. But she's seen the success that my company has had and the big investments that I've made, and now she realizes that it's okay to make those big investments. And now she's a pediatrician, right? So she was working full time. Now she only has to work part time, so she sees our kids more. And and my risk taking has allowed her to enjoy her life more, and that meant a great deal to me because
Yeah.
I mean I can't even tell you, even though I'm trying to tell you how much it meant to me, but it's very hard to express that because without her I'm in a ditch somewhere. I mean, you know, it wouldn't be good, and for me to give her a better life is just the it's and then and so like I named our kids, it was very important for me to name the kids, and then but she does 99% of the parenting because she's a human. She knows how to do that, and I can barely take care of myself.
I love that.
And it's just so I'm just so thankful for her because I mean it's just she's made me a person. Like she's given me some empathy, and it's just she's given me a life basically. That's what she's given me a life.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Justin, I want to thank you because, yeah, you say you're barely human, whatever. I don't buy that, but
Well, no,
uh,
yeah,
you know
barely.
what? I wanted to personally thank you. I wanted to get you on the show, of course, and talk to you because you have a brilliant mind. But I wanted to thank you because you've been shifting the way I think. And I know we never met and we probably would have never met had it not been for like LinkedIn and social media and whatever. But you have introduced me to a lot of different ways of thinking, and it's making me grow. It's helping me to grow. I know I'm in my late 40s. And it's taken me this long, but I'm here. And I never invested in myself. I always invested in everyone else. I just
Mm,
always nickel and dimed for myself. And I've decided in the last year or so to stop doing that. And it's
yeah.
helped me tremendously. You've also introduced me to like Dan Sullivan, and I was about to start taking the Colby test before we got on, so I'm going to make sure I go ahead
Yeah,
and
send
do
me your
that.
score. Send me your score.
I will. They have a couple of different like segments, right? Like a financial
A
one and like a
index. No,
A,
no,
and
just
I'll
take
do
the
the
A
A
index.
index. Okay.
No, do
I'll
the A
do that right
index.
after we're done here. But I want to thank you. Seriously, I want to seriously thank you from one human to another half human for taking the time to be on my show. This means the world to me. And also for just spreading the knowledge that you spread. I know I don't know everything you know. I know I'm not up there with you, and I definitely don't have a multi-million-dollar business, but
I
I
don't
do
either.
have the mindset that will help me grow. And I know that if I keep pouring into like listening to you and listening to minds like you, Justin, I see the second part of my life ending well. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You have a very great evening. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Go spend time with your beautiful wife and children. And I will let you know when this comes out, but thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, thanks, and send me your Colby score.
I will.
And Dan Sullivan, he's the co-founder of Strategic Coach, which again is top entrepreneurial group in the world. And basically 100% of the way I live my life is what I've learned in that program over the last
Okay.
2 years. So
I'll check out that program too.
yeah, I'd invest 50K a year just in Strategic Coach. That's an easy investment because that Strategic Coach is for 1 out of every 400 entrepreneurs, not 1 out of 400 people. Most people aren't entrepreneurs like we discussed, so it weeds out most entrepreneurs, which is good
Hmm.
because I weed out. That's how I am, and
Right.
it just in one of my best friends. His name is Nick Peterson. He's floating around, and one of his favorite phrases is the process is the shortcut. So all my brain is a shortcut to weeding out nonsense, and all strategic coaches is these endless processes that help you shortcut everything and help you grow your mind and your business. So I can't recommend strategic coach enough.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much. And guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. Again, this was Justin Breen. So make sure you guys check him out. I'll make sure to link all of his information below. This is Nina Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.